Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I went to a conference in Chicago, and I despise flying. I hate flying. Flying freaks me out. I cannot handle the physical discomfort, the mental discomfort. It's a terrible experience for me all around. Also because I'm really tall. Like I'm 6'7", so I don't really fit in economy, and I can't afford anything above economy. So I either have to book my flights way ahead of time, otherwise I'm not gonna fit into an airplane seat. Because I have to book a bulkhead seat or an exit row. Otherwise I don't fit in an airplane. And I can't afford business class. So I'm fucked if I don't book a flight way ahead of time. And so, like, okay, I have the opportunity to not fly here, so I decided to take a train. I took a train to Chicago because I'm like, you know what? It's way more laid back. I don't have to deal with the stress of the airport. I can just get in coach. It's way cheaper. I have all of the leg room in the world that I'll ever need. It's like a fifth of the cost. Super cheap. It was like $200 round trip there and back on a sleeper train. So I'm like, this is a fucking no-brainer. It takes like, 10 times the amount of time, but it's low stress. And when I'm on the train, I can work on the train. I can do work on the train. I can listen to podcasts. Like, I'm not stressing out the entire time, So for me, I'm like, okay, to me, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take the train. Yeah, so I'm in coach. The seat is fine. I'm reclined back. I finished doing my work. I'm listening to the podcast. It's fine. And about halfway there, by the time, was it in St. Louis? Yeah, I think by the time I get to St. Louis, at that stop, a woman, a woman and her, was it 4 kids? It was either 3 or 4 kids. I don't remember exactly. It was at minimum 3 kids. I think it was 4. A woman and her 4 kids get on the train. And here's where it goes south. Here's where it goes south. Uh, just the mom, just the mom gets on the train, and it's a baby and 2 toddlers, and then I think one older kid, but I think it might have been just one toddler and then one older kid. They get on the train, and they're in coach, and there's 2 coach cars, and they're connected. I'm in the coach car in the front, and and they sit adjacent to me and one row back. But in coach, they're still in full view of me because the space between coach seats is really big. And so she sits down with her kids, and initially they're fine. They're a little rowdy and what have you. But then as soon as the train starts moving, it was over. These kids did not shut up the entire time. And by the time they got on, it was like 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. And, the day is winding down, and, and it was just constant. It was constant screaming and crying and yelling and talking. And, like, I could put on my sound cancelers and that would have been fine, right? I could have at least ignored the noise. But it was a fucking war zone in her row. It was a war zone. There was food being thrown around and trash. And like at one point, one of the kids took their clothes off and was running around the coach car. And the entire time, the mom isn't doing anything. She's just sitting there, not disciplining her kids, not trying to calm down the crying baby, not like just like slowly kind of meandering up and picking up the kids' clothes and getting them dressed in the seat. Just not really giving a fuck about anyone around them, And it just kept getting worse, and then she feeds her kids and half the food ends up on the floor. And then when it's time for lights out, which is at like 10 o'clock, they dim the lights so everyone can sleep. Not 10 seconds after the lights go off, she whips out the iPad for her kids, maxes out the brightness so it's flooding the cabin with light, maxes out the volume with no headphones, and then plops her kids in front of it. And then so you have the volume of the iPad blaring in the car, the kids not shutting up. It's like I think she attempted to calm the kids down with the iPad, but it didn't do shit. So they're just screaming and crying and running around the entire time. And it just wouldn't stop. And people, and then they started throwing food and like walking up to other people and bothering them. And it's like the whole time people in the car are like, hey, can you like do something about your kids? Can you calm them down? Like do something. And she didn't say, like, she probably said at most a total of 5 words on the train when she got on. I swear she was medicated. And she was just kind of, sit there, kind of look over at her kid, and then kind of look back, and then like slowly move and like lean something over, lean over, get something out of the bag, and then just kind of hand it to her. Like she was in no rush. She was in no rush, right? And it was like that for 8 hours straight. 8 straight fucking hours of cacophonous hell with these kids. And at one point, one of them shit themselves, and she didn't even bother to take the kid to the bathroom. She just did the diaper change right then and there. Like, so the whole fucking car stinks. And by this point in time, half the car had already moved back to the other coach car because you're free to move about either car and find a seat. So the other car gets filled. You know, I'm like, I was tolerating the noise of my sound cancelers. It was my mistake for not getting up and going to another car. And by the time one shit themselves, it's like, oh fuck. And so now I have to deal with the smell. And it's and then like the train staff can't do anything. They're not just gonna kick someone out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. So like we had to put up with it until we got to a stop they could get off on. And then she takes her sweet fucking time getting her stuff together and gets off the train. And then after they're gone, like 3 stops before mine, I look over at the seats they were in. It's like a bomb went off. It's like a nuclear war of a dumpster went off in the seats next to me. There was food and trash everywhere. There were stains on the rug and like they spilled drinks everywhere, like left cups and bottles. Like, oh my god. Just holy shit. And I mean, she was a young parent, you know, probably, you know, a little younger than me, if not in my age bracket. But just Jesus Christ. Like, I'm never taking the train again. Or if I'm taking the train, I'm gonna book something above coach class because mother of God, I'm not marrying her. She was fucking obese. She was, big beach ball lady. I want none of that. Oh my God. So that was my train experience. Oh yeah, she had sweatpants and a t-shirt, the whole 9 yards. You know. So yeah, I'm never taking the train again unless I'm booking something above coach class.